Before we talk about modern heating systems, energy bills, or insulation ratings, we need to step back to a moment when winter was an existential threat. During the Great Depression, millions of families faced freezing temperatures with almost no fuel, no safety nets, and no margin for waste. Yet they survived, not through comfort, but through ruthless efficiency, improvisation, and an understanding of heat that modern homes often ignore. These were not tricks pulled from manuals. They were solutions forged by necessity, tested every night, and refined by people who knew that one mistake could mean illness or death. What's remarkable is that many of these methods still outperform modern habits, especially in power outages, fuel shortages, or extreme cold. The reason Depression-era heating worked was because heat was treated like a resource, not a convenience. Families during the 1930s understood that heat behaved like water in a leaking bucket. Every crack, every draft, every unnecessary room was a loss they could not afford. Instead of trying to heat entire houses, they shrank their living space. Kitchens and main rooms became heat cores, while unused rooms were sealed off entirely. Heavy blankets were hung in doorways to trap warmth where people actually lived. Today, the same principle applies immediately. Closing unused rooms, blocking stairwells that bleed heat upward, and concentrating activity into a smaller zone can reduce heating demand dramatically without touching a thermostat. The way they layered buildings mattered more than how much fuel they burned. One of the most effective Depression-era strategies was internal insulation. Walls were lined with newspapers, cardboard or fabric, not because these materials were magical, but because trapped air slowed heat loss. Windows were treated the same way. Families applied removable winter layers using plastic, wax paper or cloth to create dead air pockets. Modern homeowners can replicate this logic using thermal curtains, removable window films, and interior storm panels. The principle hasn't changed. Heat loss through glass is still one of the biggest weaknesses in any building, regardless of technology. So, here's why the stove was treated more like a battery than just a source of flame. In those Depression households, folks really couldn't rely on keeping a fire going all the time. Fuel was just too scarce, you see. Instead, they made use of thermal mass. Cast-iron stoves, brick surrounds and stone hearths were all heated up intensely for a short bit, and then, well, they'd let them radiate warmth for hours on end. The fire itself wasn't really the goal. It was all about storing heat. That's actually why families would cook, boil water and heat bricks all at once. Those heated bricks, once wrapped in cloth, would be tucked under beds, slipped into footboxes or placed near where people sat, providing a bit of local warmth long after the stove went cold. Even today, this same idea is used with masonry heaters, heat-retaining fireplaces, or, honestly, just putting stones near a heat source. Now, let's talk about why clothing strategy was just as important as the architecture itself. During the Depression, getting by blurred the line between what you wore and the shelter you lived in. Wool was, without a doubt, king, since it kept folks warm, even if it got a bit damp. People layered up on purpose, not so much for moving around, but for insulation while they were sitting still. Long underwear, scarves and head coverings were worn indoors because everyone understood how much heat you could lose through your extremities. This wasn't about fashion at all. It was, in a way, a bit of thermal engineering. And, modern equivalents are still out there, but a lot of people today try to heat their buildings instead of just keeping their bodies warm. Wearing the right layers indoors can let you keep the room much cooler without losing any comfort. The overlooked importance of sleeping heat instead of just focusing on daytime comfort is something worth considering. One of the smartest strategies, really, was focusing heat where it mattered most: sleep. Beds were insulated from below using straw mattresses, folded blankets or even wood platforms to stop heat loss into the floor. Multiple layers were added above and, shared sleeping spaces helped conserve warmth. Hot water bottles or heated stones were used strategically, not continuously. For modern survival planning, this lesson is absolutely critical. Even if a home becomes cold, maintaining core warmth during sleep prevents hypothermia and illness. Insulated bedding and heat retention at night matter more than whatever the daytime room temperature might be. The way airflow was controlled without technology is honestly quite impressive. Depression households managed air intentionally. Chimney dampers were closed once fires died down to prevent warm air from being sucked out. Drafts were identified by candle flame and sealed with rags, clay, or makeshift plugs. Floors, especially near baseboards, were notorious heat thieves. Blocking airflow at floor level often made more difference than just adding more fuel. Modern homes, believe it or not, still suffer from the same physics. Ceiling drafts, managing ventilation intentionally and preventing uncontrolled airflow remain among the cheapest and most effective heating improvements possible. Why do these methods still outperform modern habits during crises? Well, the brilliance of Depression-era heat hacks is that they function without electricity, smart systems or supply chains. They rely on understanding how heat moves and how humans lose warmth. In emergencies, blackouts or fuel shortages, modern homes often fail because they depend on constant energy input. Depression systems assumed failure and planned for it. That mindset alone is worth reclaiming. So, what does this knowledge mean for you today? Applying these lessons doesn't mean abandoning modern comfort. It means adding resilience. It means knowing how to stay warm when systems fail, costs spike, or winter pushes harder than expected. These methods are not nostalgia. They are proven survival strategies that still work because, physics hasn't changed. If this kind of forgotten knowledge matters to you, subscribe to the channel and share this video with others who value real history and practical survival wisdom. The past still has a lot to teach us, if we're willing to listen.